So today I have a very special guest, Andy Ansin, CEO of Sunbeam Development and the family behind Channel 7. Andy, thank you for your time.
Oh, certainly happy to be here, Brian.
So Miramar Cove, in my opinion, I think is one of the most ambitious projects happening in Miramar. It's 125 acres. You're going to have a 5.5 acre man-made lake or beach or inland.
It's really a swimming pool.
It's like a swimming pool. It's massive. What was the idea behind that? Where did that come from?
Well, the idea to create the cove, came from James Bree, who I'd hired 5 years ago. And he worked with a group called 505, which is now part of Cooper Carey. And he had seen, and maybe even he had worked on some mixed-use projects before. He was very involved with Seritage, and they did the Esplanade project in Aventura, which is recently bought by Jackie Sofer. So he was the developer on that. And he had a long background as an architect as well. So he was very familiar with these mixed-use projects. And then they came up with the idea to make the mixed-use project really centered around the cove, around the water body, and to have the boardwalk. So a lot of the mixed-use projects have fountains, but not like the fountain we're having, and certainly not the waterfront that we're creating.
Yeah, I think this project's unique because it's more of a destination with the lake. I guess how's that vision gonna play out? Are there gonna be little boats in there? I saw rendering a little gondola going through there.
Yes. Yeah, we're working with a boat builder to build gondolas. The question becomes, do you build old style gondolas? Do you make it more modern looking? But it'll be gondolas. There's a bridge, so it's similar to Venice. You can go through the bridge. There'll be three docks where you can get on and get off the gondola. And then one of them is the boathouse, which is where the gondolas would pull in and be able to be taken out of the water if needed. And there'll be a restaurant on the second floor of that boathouse.
Interesting. Can you disclose a little bit what are the major anchor tenants you're thinking of bringing here?
Well, we don't have anyone signed yet, but we're very close with one very well-known restaurant in Broward County, very successful, and then a big franchise which will relate very well to the fountain show and to the waterfront.
Yeah, so this is more like a live, work, play type of development. Do you see people actually living? Are there going to be schools in this development? They're going to keep everyone in here like a community, or?
Right at the moment, we don't have any schools in the development, but we have close to 15,000 people working next door at the Miramar Park of Commerce. So that's certainly the work part. And then a lot of those people will be able to live in Miramar Cove in the new apartments that we're building there. There's a very large percentage of people that live in Broward today, or I should say live in Miramar today, and work outside of Miramar. I think it's like 61%. And only like 39% of people that work in Miramar live in Miramar. So people are commuting into Miramar to work, and they're commuting out of Miramar to work. And we're hoping with this project in the proximity to Miramar Park of Commerce that you'll have more people that can just ride their bike or walk to work. And then if they did have to drive, the commute would be much less. So you hope, even though there'll be close to 3,000 units there, you hope that the effect on traffic will be a lot less because of the proximity of where you can live and work.
How much work goes behind making a destination? And then, because a lot of people underestimate how long it takes to actually develop these projects. It's going to take a couple of years for this to actually come to life. What is the analysis behind the scenes to know, hey, we're going to build this and people are going to come?
Well, I don't know if we've done like a formal analysis, but having lived down here my whole life, being involved with Miramar Park of Commerce really from almost the inception over 40 years ago, I have a good sense of what's in Broward County and what's in North Dade and what's missing. And I think this is the type of project, the Lifestyle Center, is what's missing. It's missing a destination. It's missing the type of place where if you want to take your kids, you can take them today. You could take them to a park, a number of great parks in Broward, but the parks aren't activated with restaurants and retail. You can take them to a shopping center, and there's some great shopping centers, but they don't have the outdoor spaces and the play spaces and that type of entertainment. So this really is able to create something that isn't in Southwest Broward, really isn't in that the whole western corridor. Kind of once you get north of Miami Lakes up the line, a lot of people are having to travel If you live in Southwest Broward, you're traveling east, so you're going to the Hard Rock, you're going to Dania Point, maybe Las Olas, and places that are on the east, and this way they can stay closer to home.
So what are your thoughts on the overall Broward market when you compare it to Miami-Dade? How's Broward shaping up?
I think, Broward has been much slower. I mean, it's a good market, certainly, but it doesn't have the vibrancy, hasn't had the explosive growth that you've had in Miami in particular. And a lot of that's due to, in Miami, the very aggressive zoning, very good zoning, I would say, really the way it's worked out, being able to do the SAPs and the master plan projects of Midtown, Design District, Wynwood.
Are these are these units all rental or any of them going to be condos so people can actually own them?
Everything in the project will be rentals, including the townhomes. The only thing we plan to sell is the hotel site.
The hotel side. Do you know what type of hotel or a brand?
Our goal is to have a full service hotel. That's another thing that's really missing in Southwest Broward. There's plenty of very nice hotels, including hotels in Miramar Park of Commerce, but none of them have the conference facilities and other things that make up a full service hotel.
So when I was at the groundbreaking, you were going over the history of this site and how it came to be. And I thought it was pretty interesting. I think you said something $100 an acre, what was it, 80, 70 years ago. Could you share a little bit of story of how that site was acquired and a little bit behind that?
Okay. So back during World War II, my grandfather and the family, they used to spend a lot of time in Miami Beach and owned a number of, they'd move from house to house from time to time. He liked to buy and sell all different types of things. And so after the war, he was made aware of property that was being auctioned off by the U.S. government, surplus land. So he had a broker down here who went and bought the property for him. When he came down here to see it, although it was very hard to tell kind of where you were, he realized that the broker had bought the wrong property. He was supposed to have bought property in Pembroke Pines, but bought this property in Miramar. Now, all this property back in the day had no roads. I don't know how they got out there by airboat or something, maybe because half the year it was underwater. And then the other half of the year when it dried out, you'd get muck fires underneath the ground. And it's what they would call seasonal cattle pasture. But that was my grandfather. He just enjoyed going around the state buying properties. He would just as soon sell it the next day. He'd be kind of like an internet day trader. He did that oftentimes in downtown Miami. He'd buy and sell very quickly. But so he accumulated over the years properties all along the west coast of Florida and along the east coast of Florida, but nothing ever in the central part of the state, nothing in Orlando, because he was like, who would ever come to Florida and not live on the water? But this is one of the early properties that he bought. Then the Army Corps, which was funded in part by the money he paid for the land, the Army Corps came in. They built the canal system, the C9 in particular, Snake Creek, and a number of these that now drain the property and drain the whole basin of Southwest Broward. And then the property became developable. And my father, over the years, accumulated more property, sometimes paying as much as $500 an acre, wow, which was much more than my grandfather thought he should pay. But nonetheless, my dad was great at entitling the property, working with the city, the county, and the state. We had a very, very good attorney, Alan Millage, who'd been general counsel for South Florida Water Management District. And he was very good at having us get the DRI and everything so that the property could be developed in a very organized fashion. Matter of fact, the applicant for the area-wide DRI, which included our property and a couple others, was the city of Miramar. So we worked very closely with them over the last probably 50 years. And so my dad was great at getting all the property ready to be developed. When I got out of school in the mid-'80s, I came to work for the family company, and since that time, developed Miramar Park of Commerce, which is 5 million square feet, and now taking the charge on Miramar Cove.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you said that Channel 7 is moving its headquarters to over there as well?
That's right.
So
yeah, the building we're in right now will get demolished. We'll move operations. We should go live in May of next year, May of 2027, at which point this site, this is a whole nother story, but this site, which is more than just Channel 7 now, will get demolished and be ready for redevelopment.
Do you have any plans of what the site or what's going to look like here on this property, or not yet?
On this property, we have some images that we shared with the city when we got our entitlements here. This is part of a larger holding now of 13 acres in North Bay Village. We have a half a mile of bayfront. All this property is, they have terrific views because here there's no neighbors. And our first building will be just to the south side of 79th Street, and that's scheduled to be a 39-story rental apartment building. Very, very high end.
Wow. So what type of developments do you guys normally focus? Is it multifamily, residential, or mixed use like this?
Up until now, the bulk of our focus has been industrial and flex space, single-story office space, showroom space, with a limited amount of retail, but conventional shopping center retail. Mostly of that's in Indiana. So this is our first foray into mixed use and apartments.
Are you already seeing this type of concept being picked up in other parts of Florida, or do you see this as just one-off just here in Miramar?
Well, the man-made water bodies, these large coves or effectively swimming pools, that's pretty popular around the country. And a lot of residential developments, they'll build the cove, they'll build the water body, and then you'll have residents across the street or nearby, and then people go there with their kids, and they find even if there's a beach a couple miles away, a lot of times people would rather go to the cove because you don't have jellyfish, you don't have undertow, you don't have the things that you have at the ocean, and it's more convenient. But no one has really incorporated it where the retail is right on the water, where the apartments have a beach club right on the water. It's tended to have been done and segregated a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are you?
The closest thing down here, I'm sorry, there are two. One would be at Solomia, and
Yes.
Solomia is the original cove was built, and then the apartment buildings were across the street. Only most recently are they completing the condominium, which will be the first building that's right on the cove, and the retail that they have again is across the street. There's another one at the Hard Rock, but that one isn't activated really with anything. There's one restaurant, but it's on the swimming pool. It's not on the cove.
Do you think we'll start seeing more of these mixed use, live, work, play? Basically, they're like nodes throughout the counties connecting everybody.
I think there's certainly demand for it, or certainly there's good reason for it, because then you can limit the traffic, right? You can stay in that community and have most everything that you need. Whether developers can acquire the sites at a reasonable price to make the numbers work, that's another question.
Of course. Do you think it's feasible to integrate public transportation or maybe expanding metro rail or some type of metro system throughout these developments so everyone's more connected?
Well, that would be a really good idea, because then you could bring more people in, where the people who are living there could get around more easily. Yes, but most of the RTC sites, the Rapid Transit Zone corridor stuff, it tends to be kind of discrete. I haven't seen one yet that maybe what they've talked about over here in Buena Vista, where they've talked from time to time about there being a tri-rail stop there. That could work.
So when you're doing these developments, how important is community input within the design and the architecture and the whole process?
Community input?
Community input, and also with working with the local government. How important is that?
Well, working with the local government has been extremely important. Miramar has been terrific to work with. They really bought into the vision. Actually, they had the vision 10 years ago, and we at that time really weren't ready for it. As far as local input, there hasn't been a lot, I honestly, in part because we had the entitlements to do it ahead of time, so it wasn't too necessary, and there wasn't much feedback when we went and had the public hearings, maybe 2 years ago now. Everyone was very, very supportive of it. Now, I think it's important to get the feedback, and I think one of the things that I say is I don't want to only have national retailers at Miramar Cove. I think there's a tremendous Caribbean community, and I think the place should feel organic and feel like you're someplace special, that this isn't a cove or a development that could be somewhere else in Florida or somewhere else in the country. I think it wants to feel like you're in Miramar. You're in a community.
How important is tenant curation for something like this?
Extremely important. I mean, first you have to get the restaurants, because the restaurants will then drive the retail. And there's certain key restaurants that'll give credibility so that other restaurants will come, particularly if it's a restaurant that has a good name, has a gravitas, they're renting a pad maybe and building their own building, and that means a lot. It means that company has qualified the location. So it makes it a lot easier now if you're the real estate person working at the next restaurant to say, oh, company ABC is there, and they're building the building with their own money. It makes it much easier. Same type of thing we saw in the early days of Miramar Park of Commerce. When we got an AT&T or we got a Keebler Cookie, all of a sudden it was a lot easier for the real estate manager to say, oh, this location's qualified. I can pick this location and I'm not going to lose my job because these other companies are already going there or they're already there. So it's similar to what we've seen in that regard. And I think that you also have to have the right balance in that you don't want to have all high-end expensive restaurants because then every day people won't be able to go. So you need a good mix of the higher end restaurants as well as having restaurants that have day-to-day pricing.
And for the commercial spaces that you have, those are for lease, or are those going to be condoed out, or everything's for lease?
Yeah.
Do you see any large international groups taking over these spaces, or what's the demand? Because we're seeing a lot in the media that people from New York, California, internationally are coming to South Florida. Are you seeing that within your developments?
Haven't in which regard? Having like a national retailer?
Like a national retailer or an investment group, or
I know our team has met with a lot of the retailers, and most of them are waiting for the restaurant leases to be signed. Because my understanding is the way the retail works these days is they want people coming to the restaurants because it's very hard to get people to come to just retail. And you have so many options online or other places you can go. So, but once they know that the foot traffic is going to be there for the restaurants, then the dry retail will fill in.
when you're trying to get these restaurants, is there an interview process? They have to interview you, or how does that work?
It's a lot of meetings. It's much different than doing the industrial leasing. And my industrial leasing guy, I have him helping out. He's like, Andy, they want to meet 12 times and then more. Like in industrial leasing, you hardly even meet with them. The broker kind of drives them through. And we used to give like a dog and pony show in the office. They don't even come to the office anymore, right? It's like it's much different than the restaurants and some of the retailers.
And even working with brands, that's a whole interview process as well.
A bit more.
Working with these different brands, so they're very selective. You would think that this looks like a slam dunk, but they still want to vet it out and see if it matches their brand.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Interesting. Yeah. What other markets in South Florida are you seeing opportunities in, or that you think are going to have more opportunities?
Well, we're not really looking for more. Our plate's pretty full. We're a family company, so between what we're doing in North Bay Village and what we're doing in Miramar, and then our ongoing operations with the TV stations and Miramar Park of Commerce, we're not out there really looking. If you were to ask me where you could still create value, but it's not an easy thing to do at all, is in the high-end markets, the high-end residential markets, waterfront, aggregating sites. So taking two homes, buying both of them, demolishing, and putting that on the market. I think there's value, and because the homes that I are seeing getting built these days just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they want the tennis court and the swimming pool, and it's no longer is it a 10,000 square foot lot. They want 40,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So
a lot of these condo buyouts are becoming very lucrative. A lot of value there.
If you can get through it, but the condo terminations are very difficult.
Yeah, they're very, very tough.
Very tough.
And what are your thoughts on North Bay Village? You guys have been here forever. What are your thoughts on these developments and what you're seeing here in the specific market?
Oh, it's super exciting. I drove in again today, and you got the Publix and the Schomer project on one side of the road, and Continuum coming up on the north side of the road. And you drive west of here, and there's 2 or 3 projects with Pagani and a couple others that are under construction, and Pagani just broke ground. So it's amazing. I mean, it's a location that I think people forgot about. In a large part because the zoning, the heights and the density just wasn't there. So it's so much easier and more profitable to build on the Miami side or the high-end side in Miami Beach. But now the location is really ripe, and the city, to their credit, North Bay Village, they increase the zoning and are allowing more height. So,
what are your thoughts on Live Local? Have you ever worked on it, or if you just have an opinion on that type of
I haven't really done Live Local, but from what I'm told anecdotally, it hasn't so much been that it has spurred new Live Local development as much as it's given the developers a tool in their kit to negotiate with the cities to get projects approved.
Yeah, you get more density for those projects, and then they can kind of get whatever they want.
Many of the communities don't want a Live Local project, right? So they'd rather give them something else to avoid it.
Of course. So how does the family transition from, did they start off doing developments, or how did the Channel 7, the media side, how does that all connect? That's very interesting to me.
Okay, well, you have to go back pretty far.
Yeah.
We were developers before we were broadcasters. So after World War II, my father and my grandfather built homes on the VA loan program in what's today Pembroke Park, Miami Gardens, West Park, in that area. And as part of that, my grandfather, bought land, and he owned a lot of property, which is right on the county line between on the north side of Dade, just south of Broward. And one day, CBS or Channel 4 came to him before they went on air. So this would have been the early 50s, I guess, and said they needed 10 acres to erect their television tower. All the TV stations have, they're like 1,000-foot tall towers and they're broadcasting. And you can only really put them on the county line because that's the no flight zone midway roughly between Miami Airport and Fort Lauderdale. So no planes can fly there. Right. So they came to them and he gave them a price and they said, okay, they bought it. Then, I don't know if there's another year or two later, Channel 10 shows up because they got the next license and they said, we need 10 acres for the same reason. The reason it's 10 acres is in case the tower falls. It can fall in any direction and not hit a home or hit anything outside the property. So I don't know if he doubled the price or whatever he did. He quoted them more money and they said, okay, negotiation. And my grandfather's like, well, this must be a pretty good business, a broadcasting business. And when the Channel 7 license became available, he threw his hat in the ring to get that, but didn't. Instead, it was awarded to a group that was Cox, Knight, Trammell. The original call letters for Channel 7 were WCKT. W because it's east of the Mississippi. Don't ask me why. It seems like it should be an E, not a W, but W because it's east of the Mississippi. CKT. Cox was Cox Broadcasting, so they had all the radio stations. Knight was like Knight Ritter from the newspaper, the Miami Herald owners. And then Trammell had been the president of NBC. So he was really the television broadcaster. And they got the license. Okay. Fast forward 3 years later, every 3 years, the license comes up for renewal. And people are able to put their hat in the ring again. So my grandfather does. But there wasn't any real reason why Cox, Knight, Trammell was very established, wouldn't just get their license renewed. However, at that time, the Justice Department decided to look into groups that were having improper contact with FCC officials for either the awarding or the renewal of FCC licenses. And come to find out that everyone, including the CKT people, had had proper contact with the FCC officials. So my grandfather gets called in front of the magistrate, Mr. Ansin. This seems kind of odd, but why are you the only one that didn't have improper contact? Now, if you knew my grandfather, he was like the first one who would have had improper contact with an FCC official. He had a cabana at the Eden Rock. He had a cabana at the Fontainebleau. And you can see the old pictures. He's there with his buddies, smoking cigars, drinking with the cocktail waitresses in little skimpy outfits. It's kind of like the Rat Pack, right? He was like the leader of the pack. So he says to the magistrate, he says, well, Your Honor, my judge, my attorney, Bernie Coteen, told me not to have any contact with the FCC official, so I didn't. He said, oh, okay, you get the license. Wow. And Cox Knight Trammell was then forced to sell us the physical plant. Otherwise, we own a license, but we needed a TV station and he needed a tower. So they were forced to sell it to us at a decent price. They couldn't, because the Justice Department was watching them because such things had happened before. And so I think for like $1 million, we got Channel 7, which was roughly a third of this island and the buildings. They were smaller than they are now, and the transmitter on the county line. And we got into the business.
Wow. And how, I guess, what does it take to run a media empire business like that?
Well, back in the day, it was relatively easy because everyone had to watch TV. You had 3 networks. You had ABC, NBC, and CBS, and we were NBC at that time for a long time. And you didn't have to do too much. You produced the news, but you were going to be profitable just from the advertising and the limited number of choices people had. Unlike today, where and back then, there was a time where the networks actually paid the affiliates to run their programming when they first, because they needed to get critical mass, so they had to pay these people to operate and start stations and so forth. Today it's the opposite. The networks charge the affiliates a fortune, and we have advertising revenue is way down, so it's a much, much more difficult business.
Really? And how are you guys transitioning within the world of social media, or how do you see that impacting, I guess, media in general for your business?
Well, it's tremendous amount of competition for the eyeballs and where people get their news, where people get their entertainment. So it's very hard to get people to watch unless you have a really good news product and live sports and certain programs. But to a large extent, the television stations have become distribution arms for the NFL. The NFL has, I think, 88 out of the 100, maybe more, top shows every year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where the driving force for broadcast television is today, is live sports.
Yeah, live sports. I guess, how challenging is it to negotiate with these type of entities? Just for people to know, right? Like I've seen stuff on social media where there's some interesting stories on that.
Negotiating with the networks?
Yeah, that they're tight, they're tough.
Well, they're very tough. They're very tough. And but to their credit, I mean, they're paying a fortune to get the programming rights, particularly for the NFL and for the other sports now too. So they need to get a lot of money from the affiliates to be able to afford it. Yeah.
Interesting. And there's this other site that you have. So I think across the street, the development you're gonna have in North Bay Village, or was it this specific property? I forgot what I was looking. I was doing a little
for the condominiums.
For the condominiums, going back to the
towers
condominiums.
Anyway,
the towers.
That's this property. It's 13 acres.
13 acres.
Yeah, so it's where we're sitting, and then it extends to the east a number of acres, and we have two sites. The one I talked about for our first building, and then the second site on the south side of 79th Street.
You guys are top here when it comes to development. You have the media. How do you think about legacy? I guess succession planning
Right.
for the future. I guess what are the thoughts on that? I've always been interested in learning that.
Right. Well, our kids are young, but they're getting older. Our youngest is 11. Our oldest is 20, and she's a sophomore now in college. So, they're aware of the business. Some of them have more interest in it than others, and certainly give them the freedom to go out and pursue whatever field they're most interested in, because you never know what they may learn in a very distant field may come back and be very relevant one day. So.
Yeah. And I guess what's like the philosophy to because I myself recently became a father. So what are your thoughts on raising, the future generation? Like, how do you raise great kids that go out there and, accomplish great things?
Well, I think mostly you have to try to teach them good values, to be respectful for everyone, and to do things that they enjoy, and to do it in a very ethical, proper way, and to try to the motto from my high school alma mater was to give more to the world than you take from it.
And what are your thoughts on adversity, or have you ever had a moment where you had a major obstacle? You're like, wow, what do I do here? Hey, how do you persevere during these tough situations?
Well, my background is swimming and water polo. And I was never that good at either one, although, so there's a lot of perseverance there. So I think that's kind of ingrained in me. I think mostly putting things in priority, first of all, like if you have a problem, like how big of a problem is this really? How much do I really want to worry about it? How much time do I want to give to it? Do I want to move on? But then also just giving things time. Oftentimes what seems like an insurmountable problem one day, if you give it enough time, meditate on it, talk to other people, do a little bit of reading, think creatively, you can find a solution for it.
And just to end off the interview, where do you think the next 10 to 20 years of South Florida, where are we heading? What's the direction of our community heading towards?
That's a good question, right? I think you called it nodes, helps with some of the transportation issues that we have. I think there's still a big affordability issue every day. You go to the restaurants and stuff, and the prices just continue to go up and up and up. Tickets to events and that type of thing, and education. And in some ways, I think education is the hardest one to solve, particularly at the middle school, high school level, because the good schools, the top schools, are all capped out, either because of geography or they have student caps in their agreements with the jurisdictions, the municipalities. So it's one of the things that I became aware of and have been trying to work on a little bit too.
With the education here in South Florida?
Hmm.
What do you think would be sorry, I wanted to end it, but now you brought this up. This is interesting. What do you think would be a solution for that, to improve education here in South Florida?
Well, the best solution would be for all the public schools to get significantly better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to take, the political will of the school board to change the way that they've been running the school system. So I'm not going to get that done. So and then you have the charter schools which are coming in, and then now through the program that the state set up, they're going into the public schools, and they'll be able to provide, good education for a certain segment of the population, Success Academy. So, but my focus has been more on the higher end part of the schools, the private schools, not the charter schools, not the public schools, and trying to, particularly in the northeastern part of the county, working on a site so that there can be another middle school and high school. Because part of the problem is the people who are living in the communities in the Northeast, there's a very limited number of schools they can go to. So they're having to send their kids to Broward County, or they're having to go 45 minutes or more to the schools that are in the South, or they're having to move. And then that only makes the affordability issue worse because it's driving up the prices in Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, Pinecrest like crazy, right? Because people are saying, okay, I want to send my kids to those schools. There's not much available in the Northeast, and the ones that are there are full. So that only makes the affordability and the traffic issues worse. So there's big demand, from the neighborhood, say from Aventura down to Edgewater, where they can send their schools. So that's been taking a fair amount of my time to try to do something in that space.
Wow, there's a significant demand even for my clients, and I didn't think we were going to even get into this topic, but it's very interesting because, for example, Gulliver, Ransom, Carlton, all these schools, there's waiting lists, and the demand is here. If you're getting all these people coming from New York, Citadel, for example, where are they going to put their kids?
Right.
And I think that there's a gap in that market. I don't know how you can solve it quickly. Do you think that could be an Achilles heel that could slow down the growth we're seeing in South Florida?
It already has.
Yeah.
There are a lot of companies that would be here, or they'd have more employees here if not for the schools, because they can't, in good conscience, send their employees down here and not have a good school that their employees can get into.
How many schools do you think we need to fill that gap?
Wow, that's a really good question. At least 5.
At least 5.
Yeah, I mean, if you figured middle school and high school, a good size would probably be 1,200. I think if you had 6,000 spots throughout the county, it'd be really, really good.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And it would open up real estate markets too, where people would be able to live further spread out in the county.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was looking at a report that Miami Beach, there's people hesitant to live there because because of the traffic, just to get over the causeway or to go to drop off their kids at school. And that's something that we don't think about, but the demand is there.
Oh, the demand is clearly there.
The demand is clearly there.
Right.
So you're planning to fill in that void?
Part of it, yeah. Do my little bit.
All right. They partner up with different schools or?
No, when I looked at it, I decided this maybe it's because of my perspective that this is first a real estate problem, in that it's very hard to find a large site that can accommodate a school, either because of the price or because of the zoning and the reluctance of many communities to approve schools. So it almost has to be really a pre-existing school site. So I looked at the old Archbishop Curley site, which is just north of Design District there on 2nd Avenue. And there was going to be an Avenue School, was originally slated to replace Archbishop Curley.
Really?
But they decided not to move forward with that. But at the same time, the owners, at the moment anyway, or when I last talked to them, didn't want to sell. And I looked at a couple other sites. Nothing really came together, but we have one in mind now, which is very encouraging.
That's interesting. Yeah, that site, the one you just brought up, the Archbishop Curley, I've been wondering what they were going to do to that site. It's just right there. What is it, 15 acres, 10 acres, something like that right there? That's interesting.
Yeah, 15 acres.
15 acres. Wow. Andy, thank you for your time. This was a very insightful interview. I really appreciate it. South Florida is growing. Miramar Cove looks like it's going to be the next destination in Broward. And I appreciate you for your time. Is there anything you want to leave off to the community or anybody
No, I
watching?
think we're good. I think we covered it. Thank you. Thank you
Thank you so much.
for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
Hey, thank you for providing me. All right, guys. Have a good one.